Hi everybody, I'm Elsa from Hippie Warrior. This short class is for opening the chest, shoulders, and releasing tension in the neck as well. So if you're feeling any upper body tension, this is meant to be either a class you come back to and do in sequence as I've said it, or you can take what works for you from the class and do bits and pieces on your own when you have time. So what you'll need for this class, you'll need, if you have yoga blocks, a couple of yoga blocks are great. We will be using those. If you don't have them, I definitely suggest getting some. You can find some pretty inexpensive ones, but you can also use tightly rolled up towels or blankets or even thick cushions to substitute. And then a blanket is optional. You may want it underneath your knees at some point in time. And then also we'll be using a ball of some sort to release. So that could be a myofascial release ball, maybe a lacrosse ball, it's a little more dense, or a tennis ball, or even a ball that's a dog toy. Again, you can find really inexpensive options of these. They're great tools, so I suggest investing in one or more. So the first position will use the blocks or your substitute blocks. So everything else can come out of your way for now. And then that first block or piece of support will go underneath your shoulder blades. So you'll bring your feet to the earth, knees bent up into the air. And then if you're using a block, the front edge of the block goes in line with the bottom tips of your shoulder blades, and your shoulder blades begin to walk back so they're resting on the block. Now, if you want a little bit more opening, you can choose to actually lift the chest and slide the support down further so that the back edge of the block is just under the bottom tips of your shoulder blades. And then your shoulder blades are not on the block, but they're behind the block. It's much more intensive an opening. I tend to prefer the support right under my shoulder blades rather than behind, but you can experiment. And then that second block or piece of support will go underneath your head at any height that feels right to you. You might have to adjust a little bit. What we're going for here is a nice opening in the chest. So we're creating space between the chest and the front of the shoulder, letting the shoulders descend. So really counteracting all that rounding we do on our phones, on our computers, or driving. And then we're also getting a nice long neck here, supported head. So we're trying not to let the chin be overly tucked or lifting up and back. So you may have to adjust where exactly that support is under your head, how high it is, until you feel like you've got a nice, fairly neutral spine. And then your legs can either come out long if that feels good, or you might leave your feet on the earth and walk them out a little wider than hip width distance and let your knees knock into touch. That's a great way to just keep your back wide and protected if your back is bothering you at all. Sometimes here I'll play a bit with the placement of my arms. If I'm feeling pretty open, I might bend my elbows significantly and let my arms slide a little up and out. But I do my best to keep my arms supported. If your arms are floating up in the air, that's not necessarily a problem, but you just want to see how much you can let the shoulders descend. Because if your arms are hanging, things might tend to engage more than we want them to, and then they won't release quite as much. Maybe you're a little lower down, hands might even rest on your belly if your shoulders are feeling really tight. We'll stay here, a few deep breaths. Maybe some sighs out the mouth. we are really creating space around the heart in this position. And the heart can hold many emotions. So you might begin to feel things being stirred up, beginning to release. Just notice if you do feel anything coming up. Allow yourself to feel without becoming attached to those feelings. Last few moments. If it feels okay to you, you can walk your legs out long, reach your arms overhead, point through your toes, get a nice big morning stretch over that support. And then to gently come out of this supported Shavasana, bring your feet to the earth, knees bent, and then gently roll onto your side. Your top palm can come to press into the earth and help roll you up to a seat. And then the blocks can come out of your way. And seated, we'll just take a moment to do a couple cat-cows. You can sit cross-legged. I'm going to sit on my shins here. And these cat-cows will use cactus arms. So 90-degree bend in your elbows. And then inhale here, lift your heart, let your inner elbows reach a little back as your gaze goes up. Exhale, hands and elbows meet, a little round into the upper spine, gaze goes down and towards your navel. Inhale, open up. Exhale, round. 3 more. You can close your eyes if you like. Really gentle, slow movement, just putting a little more space back into the shoulder, into the chest. Last one. And then inhale, come back to center. Exhale, hands come down. Next, we'll take a little neck opening here. So stay in your seat and just let your right ear melt towards your right shoulder. Let your tailbone be heavy. Your mouth can be gently open, letting the jaw relax as well. And then bring your right hand up and overhead to rest above your left ear on the left side of your face, or head rather, more accurately. And then just give a gentle tug with your right hand up and over to the right. So we're going in for a nice stretch to the left side of the neck. Be really gentle here as you ease in. That right shoulder can just soften a little down your back. And then reach your left fingertips down and out to the left. Reach through and past your fingertips. Send some space into your left side neck. Maybe some wiggles there in the fingertips. You can stay here. If it feels okay, turn the left palm to face behind you, bend into your left elbow, bring the back of the left hand to your low back, and then from the front of the left shoulder, just peel open a little bit more. You can always come back to the hand reaching out to the side if need be. Feel free to sigh here to release any tension. This is always a doozy for me. It doesn't matter how many times I do it. I always really feel it. Gently to come out. Left hand will come back first, then down to your side. Listen carefully. Keep your head as it is. Just sneak your right hand to your right ear and use your hand to gently bring your head back up. Then your right hand comes down. You can look a little to your left and your right. Left and right. Oh. And then to center. And let your left ear gently begin to melt towards your left shoulder. Tailbone heavy, mouth softly open to let your jaw get in on the release. And now your left hand comes up and over to rest above your right ear on the right side of your head. And you just give a little gentle tug up and over to that left side, letting your left shoulder soften down your back. Breathe here. Any sighs are welcome. Notice if you have a tendency to really lift through your heart. Let the heart soften. Let your tailbone gently reach down towards the earth. And then if it feels okay, you can reach your right arm down and out to the right. Reach through and past your fingertips. Send some space into the right side of your neck. Some compassion maybe. You can put wiggles into your fingertips here if that feels good. You might stay here. Maybe even bring your hand back to your thigh. Or you can turn your right palm to face behind you, bend into your right elbow, bring the back of your hand to your low back, and then from the front of your right shoulder, just gently peel open a bit more. Again, checking in there. That may or may not feel right for you. And it may not feel right today, but it may feel right in a week or a month, or vice versa. We go through different stages, different phases in our bodies, just like there are different seasons. So we need different things at different times. One more moment, maybe a sigh. And then gently bring your right fingertips back out if they're behind your back. Right hand down, sneak your left hand to your left ear and use your hand to gently bring your head back up. Left hand down. Look a little right, little left. Ooh, little right, little left. And then at center, just draw some circles with the tip of your nose. One direction and then the other, and try to get the whole circle. Sometimes our circles, when we're not really paying attention to them, can end up more like squares than circles. Nice. Last thing for your neck here, interlace your fingers behind your head. Let your chin come down towards your chest. And then with your hands on the back of your head, let there be some heaviness through your hands, just gently letting your face soften down. A little more length in the back of your neck as your neck gets long and shoulders gently soften down your back. You can stay here, or you might let your chin gently rotate a little towards one shoulder and then back towards your chest and then towards the other shoulder. And then back, sort of passing through this little crescent shape as you keep the neck long. You might even find a spot or two where you want to hang out just a moment. Let your tailbone be heavy, keeping your low back protected. Last moment here. Then chin into center towards your chest. Release your hands and then slowly, using the 7 vertebrae in your cervical spine, in your neck, gently roll your head back up. Whew. Okay. Next thing, for the back of the shoulder. So we're getting into the traps, into those muscles that hold up the head through the neck all day long. So this is what you might want your blanket for. We'll go ahead and come onto our knees, and especially if you're on a floor that is a harder surface, you may want to use a blanket. So come onto your knees, and then I'm going to put my hair up briefly just so you can see all of what's happening. And then we'll come into a tabletop position. reach your left arm up here, looking out to the left, and then gently thread the needle. So you're reaching your left arm under your right to the right. And then you can go ahead and walk your right hand out a little to the right so that your right elbow can be bent above your right wrist. So you're getting this nice architecture of the arm to help support you. If you find your head does not want to fully release here, you can bring some support like a block or a little cushion under your head for that support. Just want your head to be fully released there. And then press into your right hand any amount to peel your heart a little more towards the sky. So we're creating space in the back of the left shoulder between the spine and the shoulder blade. Whew. You can stay here, or you might reach your right arm up, turn the right palm behind you, bend into the right elbow, place the back of your right hand to your low back or outside the left hip, and then from the front of your right shoulder, peel a bit more open. I find while this still creates a stretch in the back of the left shoulder and also gets into the right shoulder, actually I feel more sensation, more opening in the back of the left shoulder if I keep the right hand down. So it just depends on what you want today, what's feeling good for you right now. Maybe some sighs here. Really letting the head and the neck surrender. Let your left hip reach a little back in space. It tends to want to fall forward to follow the left shoulder. One more moment here, maybe a sigh. And then gently press into your right hand to come up. Reach that left arm up, little wiggles. Left hand down, and then we'll reach the right arm up, switching sides. Thread the right arm underneath the left. Come on down to your right side of your face. And then press into that left hand any amount. I'm going to switch around just so you can see me a little better here. So we're still reaching right hand underneath left arm. Perhaps something under your face for a little support. And then pressing into that left hand any amount, peel your heart a little more towards the sky. Then maybe you go in for that half wrap this side if you want it. You can sigh. When you're ready, gently bring your left hand back. Press into your left hand to come up. Reach your right arm up and out. Some wiggles. Right hand down. Now we're going to open the front of the chest a bit more. So you'll come on down to your belly. So you can move your support out of your way and come on forward to your belly. Coming into what's known as Sphinx pose in yoga. So on your forearms, shoulders over your elbows. And then I'm going to actually scoot a little towards you so I have some space here. And then I'm going to keep the 90-degree bend in my left elbow, but just slide my left forearm out to the left. And then I'll take a gander at my left elbow and let it come just a bit forward, an inch or two forward of my left shoulder. Now I'm coming down onto my left cheek, looking to the right, sliding my right knee up and outside my right hip. And then my right elbow bends up into the air above my right wrist. Press into my right hand to open up a little bit into the left side of the chest. Some of you will feel quite a bit here. Some of you, not quite as much. Still, we want to keep the head heavy. If you want a little more sensation, you can begin to shift onto the outside of your left leg, that left hip, and then the right knee reaches up and over so the right toes reach for the earth behind the left leg. Whew, now I'm really feeling that opening. The left pec, front, left side of the chest. Take one more breath. And then let your right leg come back. And then your left forearm and your right forearm come back to Sphinx. we'll get the second side. So now that 90-degree bend stays in the right elbow. You just slide your right forearm out to the right, and then you're looking at the elbow and you let it come just an inch or so forward of your shoulder. Now you come onto your right cheek looking to the left. Slide your left knee up outside your left hip. Now your left elbow's bent above your left wrist, and you can press into your left hand, feeling your heart a bit open, getting into the right anterior or front side of your chest. And then if you want a little more, you roll onto the outside of the right hip. Left toes reach for the earth behind that right leg. Whew. Maybe some sighs. And then gently left leg back. Left forearm and right forearm back to Sphinx. And then I'm going to lift my hips, walk my knees in, take just a brief moment in embryo pose. Shins down, thighs together, arms reaching back, forehead down. It's a variation on child's pose. A little more rounding, maybe a sigh. And then hands next to either side of your face, press into your hands, roll up. The last few things we'll do involve our release balls. So first we'll do a couple things for the shoulder, and then we'll get into the neck a bit more. So they're really all connected, but I like to use a more dense ball for this first one. So a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball can work well. Myofascial ball has a lot to give, so it doesn't do quite as well for me in this position. What I'm trying to get into is that space between my shoulder blade and my spine. So I'm going to lie back with the ball in that space. You might have to wiggle until you find that spot. And you can find a spot that works well for you. It can be lower down towards the bottom of the shoulder blade, or maybe a little up higher. But again, I'm between my shoulder blade and my spine. I find the higher I go, usually is about the right place to be for me. Sometimes I just hang out in one area and then let the ball get a little higher over time. Whew. Might really feel it. So for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to be here very long, just a few more moments. I would suggest hanging out here with the ball between your shoulder blade and your spine for several minutes. A minute is great if you can, but 3 to 5 minutes or more, you can see really great results with that amount of time. Because for most of us, that's about how long it takes for the fascia to begin to let go. We can't force it. It takes time. We'll be here a few more moments for right now, and even if you're just following along with me and not pausing the video, you still might notice a difference afterwards. Maybe a sigh out. I'm just going to roll onto my side off that ball, and then I'm going to put it in the same spot on the other side. So between, I started on the right side, doesn't really matter which side you started on, we're going to get both. So now I'm between my left shoulder blade and my spine. Whew. Lying back, giving into the ball. And it's normal to feel a little resistance or a lot of resistance at first. And the truth is, the more dense balls, like this lacrosse ball, are probably going to feel quite a bit more intense than if you're using even a tennis ball. It's not quite as dense, it's got more give. So you might experiment with what works right for you. And then over time, as you're here, chances are your body will begin to resist less, because it starts to accept that you're in the position you're in, and you may as well release if you're going to be here a bit. So when we do work with myofascial release, it's really important to find that place where we're just beginning to get that sensation, And we wouldn't want to go past that point. But we don't want to be somewhere where our body is just fighting the whole time, because then we never let go. I'm beginning to feel some more release here. Again, we won't be here quite so long, so I do encourage you, if you have the time, pause the video. But this is also something you could do standalone at the end of the day. If your neck is tight, if your shoulders are tight at the end of the day, this is a great one to do all by itself, or maybe in conjunction with one or two of the other things I've shown you in this video. For again, 1 minute or 3 to 5 minutes or more if you have the time. Something is better than nothing. As long as you're not forcing, something is better than nothing. And that doesn't mean no effort. There is a difference between effort and force. Most everything requires some effort. What we're trying to do is back away from forcing through. Because most of the time that just creates more tension, more hardship later on. Okay, maybe a sigh out as you roll off. Last two things here. So now I'm switching to my myofascial ball. I have a bit more give here. This is really nice for the next two positions, to have something with give. If you've just got something that's a little more dense, you could still give it a try. So I'm going to go underneath my elbow and keep my arm bent. Let my shoulders soften down my back. And that top hand maybe up in the air, but trying to get it to release. So it's sort of like a half cactus, half goalpost arm position with the ball under the elbow, and you may have to sort of adjust until you find a point where the elbow feels balanced. And what we're doing here is just beginning to tell the whole shoulder complex that it doesn't need to hold things up. Not going to be here very long. Again, if you have the time, please pause the video, stay longer, or do this for a bit longer later on in your day. Maybe some sighs. And if it seems like an area that you want to begin to let go is not letting go, it's just resisting, know that the more time you spend in a position, the more time you just give yourself permission to begin to let go, you will begin to let go. But it does take time and some practice. Even just mentally, you can speak to those places, asking them to just please begin to release. I'm going to gently let my arm roll off the ball. So just notice how I'm not lifting my arm right up, trying to engage the arm after releasing it. I'm letting the arm roll off the ball so that I'm not asking it to engage right away. And now I'm going to switch to the other side, ball under the opposite elbow. That cactus arm. I can tell I always have more trouble on my upper left side. I've got an old injury there. So I feel more tension here, more resistance to letting go. And that's just something to be aware of as you work through releasing. So this is the second to last thing we'll do. We'll do one more release with the ball. And I just want to say a brief thing about working with the shoulders, really working with most any part of the body, is that when we do have tension in a place, it is important to do things like I've shown you today, release work, but also it's important to strengthen those areas and show them how to operate in structurally sound ways. So when we do both, then we're allowing ourselves to release anything that's hanging around that we don't need, any tension patterns. that are detrimental or unhelpful. And then the second piece to that is creating and establishing movement patterns and holding patterns that are much more helpful and structurally sound and sustainable for the body. So today we just really focused on the first piece of that and not so much the second piece of that. So again, maybe a sigh before you release. And then I'm letting my arm gently slide off the ball, not engaging the arm. Last thing we'll do is take the ball, and again, I'm using my myofascial ball, so there's a bit of give to it. Use what you got. It will go underneath the back of your head. So there's some length through your neck, but just like when we did the support with the blocks at the beginning of this class, we don't want the chin way tucked or lifting up and back. We want kind of a nice long neck. Getting a little chilly now here. This class did not work up a sweat, but it may have worked up some other things. So now just relax for a moment or so. Close your eyes. I'm going to stay here another minute or so, but I would encourage you to just stay here a lot longer after the video ends. If you can stay a lot longer, a few minutes or longer. But of course, if you need to, take your time to get up when the video ends. Similarly to the last position, this one just tells the neck that the head is taken care of, that something else is supporting the head. So the neck and the shoulder complex can just begin to let go of trying to hold up the head all day long, which it's already doing for us so much of the time. Sigh. It's okay if gentle, subtle movement of your head starts to come into play. Don't force any movement, but if it just feels like something needs to move a bit, that's okay. That's just fine. Good, even. A few more breaths. And then just like in the shoulder pose, so again, if you can stay here longer, definitely do. But otherwise, just like that last pose, when you're ready to come out, see if you can keep your head super heavy and just let your head slide off the ball. Move the ball out of your way. Just notice your head now and your neck without the ball. Notice your body after all of those poses, techniques. I hope this can be a class you can come back to, again, all as one sequence, or just to pick up little tidbits to do by themselves or in combination with one another. Take care.